let us listen to Swami Kriyanandaji's words for this week on the subject of consideration for others. Consideration for others is one of the marks of a refined spirit. Many people on the spiritual path feel that since it is within that they are seeking the kingdom of God, and since they are working at developing a spirit of non-attachment, it doesn't matter how they express themselves to others. Indeed, their inconsiderateness is an affirmation of their independence of the opinions and feelings of others. If God is pleased, they tell themselves, what matters the displeasure of man? Yet, by unkindness, we can never please God, who is all kindness itself. Sensitivity to others is a way of self-expansion. One truly achieves freedom in himself when he can respect their realities because he is wholly at peace with his own. Please affirm loudly at first with me. By sensitivity to others' realities, I keep myself in readiness to perceive the truth, no matter what garb it wears. Now in a normal voice. By sensitivity to others' realities, I keep myself in readiness to perceive the truth, no matter what garb it wears. Now whispering these words. By sensitivity to others' realities, I keep myself in readiness to perceive the truth, no matter what garb it wears. Now silently. By sensitivity to others' realities, I keep myself in readiness to perceive the truth, no matter what garb it wears. And now, one last time, also silently, mentally only, making this our living reality going forward. By sensitivity to others' realities, I keep myself in readiness to perceive the truth, no matter what garb it wears. Silently let us pray. Divine Mother, I worship Thee in all Thy forms, both ignorant and wise. Finding Thee within, may I behold Thee enshrined in omnipresence. Om Shanti. I'll invite now our reader, Maushami, to read from Rays of the One Light.
Namaste. So today the reading is from week 27, Abiding in God. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. Yogananda often emphasized, more often to his disciples than to the general public, but also to everyone generally, for it was a universal teaching, the importance of attunement. For divine understanding cannot be created, it must be perceived. To the disciples, Yogananda spoke of the importance of attunement with the Guru. To others, he urged the importance, at least, of attuning oneself to higher consciousness. Can an eagle rise without support from the sustaining air? Jesus Christ said in the Gospel of St. John, chapter 15, I am the vine, ye are the branches. He that abideth in me, and I in him, the same bringeth forth much fruit. For without me ye can do nothing. If a man abide not in me, he is cast forth as a branch, and is withered, and men gather him, and cast them into the fire, and they are burned. If ye abide in me, and my words abide in you, ye shall ask what ye will, and it shall be done unto you. Herein is my Father glorified, that ye bear much fruit, so shall ye be my disciples. How can we abide in him? Jesus says, if my words abide in you. By words, he meant not only his spoken words, but his vibrations, his consciousness, of which the words are only an expression. We must abide by the teachings, but we must also absorb those teachings into ourselves, that they become our own experience. For disciples of this path, the more in their hearts they live consciously in the presence of the Masters, the more they will find the divine presence living within them. And for all truth seekers, whether disciples or not, the more they live sustained inwardly by the awareness of God's presence, the higher they will find themselves soaring in wisdom and joy. For the Bhagavad Gita says in the 10th chapter, I am the source of everything. From me all creation emerges. Blessed with this realization, the wise, awe-stricken, adore me. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om Guru.
Thank you, Maushami. And good evening once again, everybody. It's really nice to see the house of God full. Like Master said, I prefer a soul to a crowd, but I love crowds of souls. And I've been traveling a lot, and I was joking with pretty much everyone when I came that, hey, nice to see you, nice to see you. And I said, I don't know if I'm seeing you after a long time because I am traveling or you're coming after a long time. But it's really nice to see. I'm seeing Atul and many others. And it's a good exercise for my brain because, I have to ask myself, what's their name? So it's really nice to see you all. And also, we are seeing you all or at least I can see you all on a screen. So I'll invite Guru Bhais who are online, which are also a plenty today, to turn on your videos. It's really nice to see you. It's really like seeing family. As one's relationship matures, it's again, I hardly see any young soul around, maybe over there a little bit, but you'll appreciate, the more you know somebody, the less there is to say. It's like in Treta Yuga, Master said, what's the language of Treta Yuga? Silence, actual silence. I was in the presence of a lady saint. She was in silence for 62 years. She knew everything about me. There was hardly anything to ask because you would think something and she would answer it. So I was like, this is amazing. This is so effortless. This is so sweet. And so much so that, there's a lot of curiosity when you meet a silent saint, people asking questions and whatnot. And through telepathy, through her son, through a little slate, she was answering some things through sign language. Anyway, finally, we all left. There were hundreds of people who had come to see her. So we were out in another hall having prasad. And I thought, my goodness, we could have been a little bit more silent in her presence, She was a lady saint of silence. And so anyway, I thought, I said, it would be so nice, Mother, to see you once again. And just like 15 seconds later, her son came and he said, no, Ma is calling you. And I was like, this is amazing. How, it's like it's more clearer than spoken words, because Kriyanandaji said spoken words can be misinterpreted. We live in an age like that. Now, of course, if you're seeing, that's why people say in person. So anyway, what I was trying to say is, when I see you, it's just so nice, because you may not be giving the satsang, but your face is giving a discourse of itself. There you go, my sister Amruta comes online, and so it's just really wonderful. So anyway, like this great saint Ramana Maharishi, he said, silence is the perennial language. Perennial is that something that continues throughout the year. He said, silence is the perennial language which is often interrupted by talking. Now, of course, that's not really our teaching, but Master, today we're talking about attunement, abiding in God. Somebody asked Swami Kriyanandaji, how did Yogananda train his most advanced disciples? We all want to know that. And Swami right away said, through silence. He said, silence? What sort of a teaching? I don't understand anything, because when we are restless, we don't get it. And Swami said, oh, Master taught through silence, through facial expressions, a look, glance, tilt of the head sometimes. I was like, this is interesting. But again, it's beautiful that there is a spectrum. And of course, Yoganandaji wrote and he lectured, and Swami Kriyanandaji also similarly. So when we are talking about this subject of two subjects, you might say, consideration for others and abiding in God, let's pick it up one by one. When I was reading that affirmation, this thought came. Till then, I didn't know what I would share on consideration for others. On one level, like Swami's opening line says, it's the mark of a refined spirit, Who I remember meeting my preschool teacher, my first teacher, when I was in nursery. When you're in nursery, all you're being taught is 1, 2, 3, maybe your alphabet, some poems. You go and play around, basically. You give your parents some respite, and then you come back. But I remembered in those 2 years that I didn't remember a single word what my teacher said. I remembered her face, a little bit of her garden, her house. But most importantly, I remembered to this day, I remembered the joy. I thought, oh, she was so loving, so kind. Now, if somebody asked me why, what did she offer you? Tell us a story. I don't have anything. The most I remember is sitting next to her once. But I just thought she was very kind. So anyway, as life sometimes gives you the opportunity, 30 years after I was a preschool kid, a devotee came right here in Pune, and I was talking to them. I said, oh, where do you live? And he said, oh, Salisbury Park. I said, Salisbury Park? I went to school there when I was 3 years old. They said, really? Where? I said, oh, it was a lady's house. You wouldn't know. He said, no, I've been living there for 40 years. I said, Kapadia, ma'am? He said, of course, Mrs. Kapadia. Her school was there in her house. I said, you know her? He said, absolutely. She was our neighbor. I was in the building, which was not there when you were a kid and all of that. He said, I immediately asked, I said, is she there? Is she alive? Is the school there? He said, school has moved, but absolutely she's there. I'll give you her daughter's phone number. Go and see her. And I went next week, a week after that. The interesting thing was, when I met her, she was just the same, interestingly. And she asked me, the first question she asked me after I told her, ma'am, I was your student when I was 3 years old. She said, oh, how nice you came to see me. Thank you. And she said, what's your name? I said, I'm Aditya. She said, Aditya, are you happy? I said, now that's a teacher. She didn't, now of course I know alphabets and maybe I've forgotten the poems, but who cares? The bottom line Swami used to say, and I had taken the book Education for Life, is, are the children happy? More importantly, are they blissful? And you may say, bliss? What is that? But Kriyananda was like that. He brought God right there. When I was starting my clinic many years ago, which Swamiji had asked me to do, I set it up. There were lots of details and all that. But finally, I got an opportunity to be with him. So he said, now tell me, what are you doing? How much are you going to charge? What about discounts, referral, this, that? So we spoke. Finally, I asked him, I said, Swamiji, bless me and give me some advice, Swamiji. And his one-line advice was, be in bliss, Aditya. He said, if you are in bliss in your clinic, People will come to you for different ailments, and of course, you'll try your best to help them. But they will go back home uplifted. And they would be uplifted because you were uplifted. And I thought, my goodness, because, really before that also I was telling people, I saw in Kriyananda ji a remarkable doctor. I don't know. I saw him, I said, yeah, just put on imagine Swami going through hospital rounds. Imagine him in a corporate setting. Imagine him as he was in a past life in a desert, in a monastic setting. The saints and the teachings that they channel are for everybody. They are very, very practical. And I saw this more than 15 times. By great grace, I got a couch of his. I set up the place. He was all for beauty. He said, beauty is uplifting. Beauty takes our breath away. Beauty is, it inspires people. So I made now this is, by the way, a labor-saving device. I invested a lot of money in my clinic to beautify it. In a simple way, there was like straw mats in sync with the rural setting. There was incense. I had picture cards of about 100, 200 different gods and saints. And I would ask the patient, I said, do you believe in God? They're like, in a conversation, they're like, oh, yeah. Which one? Oh, Hanuman, okay. Hanuman. Staple it on the prescription paper. And I was like, eat your medicines, pray to Hanuman, go for it. And I noticed at least 15 times in the 1.5 years, this particular location where I was, people would come in. So let's say I'm sitting here, examination bed, talking to people before that. There was a curtain and there was a waiting room. People would come in, and after some time, they would say, is it okay if I leave? And I said, sure, what happened? Like some work has come up? They're like, no, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. My fees was not very high, so it's not like they were running away from my fees. It was 20 rupees. So they said, no, I'm feeling good. When I came, I was not feeling good, but I think now my problem is solved. I said, absolutely. So it saves you energy. If people are getting well in the waiting room, Hari Bol, let's work on that little bit more. And I'm sure you feel that over here. You come in and you say, I can abide in God. I can abide in bliss. Now, when this center was starting, I had mentioned something Kriyananda ji urged us to do. He said every year or every so often, we should go on a pilgrimage. You go to Badrinath or Yogananda ji's house or Banaras and all that. And he said they have value. For thousands of years, the vibrations are preserved because the saints have lived there. At the same time, Swami said that is not enough. In these times, and this is what I had shared at that time, in these times, it is much more important to create places of pilgrimage. Right here, today, 40 of us, 50 of us, including online, we'll go back to our homes. Tomorrow, you'll go to your workplaces. And of course, we don't become a saint in a day, not even in a lifetime. This is the end result of a long journey. But like Master said, if you don't set the goal, if you don't take that step or a few steps every day, how are we going to reach the end of the pilgrimage? How are we going to reach that final goal? So let's stay in God, stay in that bliss, whether it's a clinic, whether you're a banker, whether you're a monk or a nun or whatever you are. Go out, and where you are, when people come to your homes. Recently, Dhyanaji was blessing some of our homes. And she would say again and again, I can feel Master over here. I can feel Swamiji over here. It's true. I was recently in Russia, and so many devotees very beautifully, brought their devotion from around Siberia, Russia. And then masters come there. One person actually saw Yogananda ji there during a ceremony in the temple. So these are very real things. And the question is, what are we abiding in? One final story about like I was saying, consideration for God, consideration for others. Swami Kriyananda ji, one time we were in the city and he was giving a talk. And I have a younger sister, and she's 10 years younger than me. She was a teenager who had come to Pune to play tennis, ended up becoming a disciple and a Kriyaban. Now she's a doctor in New York. But when she had come, she somehow became friends with Swamiji's secretary, Lakshman, and she got to meet Swami. And so I had to wait 4 months before I saw Swamiji. and she saw him on day 5. But somehow their, guru-disciple relationship, somehow you might say, took off. And one day, how teenagers are, she was in a mood. She said, I don't want to go for the satsang. And I sat with her. I said, no, those things are fine. But, we need to go. It's Swamiji. It's a rare satsang. It's in his house. Come, let's go. And she said, no. And I looked at my watch. I said, okay, bye. And I was a little bit in turmoil. I said, my goodness, what is this human mind is such a strange thing. It can take you somewhere. It can take you somewhere else altogether. So anyway, I reached in this little ruffled state and feeling for my sister that, she's going to miss out on the blessing. And I sat down, and just then Swami came out, and he was working on the final edition. The book Living Wisely, Living Well was just about to be printed. And Swami came out and he said, hello, everybody. So we stood up and he said, before the book goes into print, I want to read a few quotes I've written over here. This book has taken more energy than any of my other books. He said, this is the 3rd time I'm working on it. And he said, I want to read some things. The first one is for July the 20th. And then he looked at me, because July 20th is my sister's birthday. So he says, the first one is for July 20th. Now, ask yourself the question, because I asked myself, whose sister is she really? Blood-wise, she's my sister. I was feeling I need to help her. There's some attachment there. But Kriyananda took charge from the whole different level. He said 20th July. And that reading, by the way, is not there on 20th July now. So I don't know what he was doing. But he said, we are all children of God. The Heavenly Father watches over every little child. And he looked at me. And just in that moment, this deep joy, blessing came from him. And I said, it's amazing. Now, on one level, it's good to come to the satsang. Master said that to his second most advanced disciple. He said, come. And Rajarsi, the most advanced, would come. And Acharya Oliver Black did not come so often. And Master told others, he said, Acharya is bogging down. He thinks he will do it all by himself from home. But he said he is finding out, he's bogging down, and he does not know why. So on one level, it's important to come. On the other hand, that day, Kriyanandaji made it very clear to me that it's good you tried, but I'm watching over these things. And I saw his grace, as, we all know, over the family members, distant relatives. In the pandemic, I'll share this story. Because there's you who abide in God, and then there is the blessings that go out to many others. So the pandemic was raging, first wave. I was doing an online class. I got the news my Mamaji had passed away. And so I requested people. I said, let's offer a prayer. And so one of them said, sir, you should not be doing this class. You should be with your family. They need you right now. Flights had just started. So I said, what you're saying makes sense societally. I said, but Master said we are his disciples. We should always ask what's the right thing to do. And I said, I feel that Master wants me here. Because when I asked him, should I go home? The simple response I got was, and who are these others who are dying in Pune? Are they not your family? I said, they are. And he said, then how can you choose one over the other? And I was there at cremation grounds, in ICUs, in the hospitals with people. So the important thing is, are you staying in God first? Remember that opening line from autobiography? India is known for its disciple-guru relationship. The guru is, of course, great. They have found God. But where is the disciple? So anyway, I said, no, I said, maybe you're right, but let's offer a prayer. 5 months later, I went home. And my mother told another brother monk who had come with me, he was consoling her. And when he said, Auntie, don't worry, your brother is here with us. And she said, I know he's here. And then he said, how do you know? And she said, Kriyanandaji told me. And he looked at me and I just shook my head. We were sitting in a triangle. I said, I don't know. Keep asking. I said, how do you know? How did Swamiji tell you? She said, few days after my brother's passing, Swami came in my dream and he told me, Kamal, dekho, tumse milne kaun aaya hai? My mom knows only Hindi, so he spoke in that language. He said, see, Kamal, who has come to meet you? And she said, right there was my brother. And they spoke in Haryanvi, their dialect. And in the pandemic, people were dying alone. You were not allowed to be with your relative. And he said, when I passed away, I was alone. He told my mother in that dream. He said, please tell my daughter, my son, and my wife these three things. And finally he said, and don't worry about me. I am in a very good place. Oh my goodness. So when you abide in God, I mean, think how, and my Mamaji had not met Swamiji. As far as I know, he had not read a book of his. But Swami says, if you stay in God, and Ananda specializes on one level. Many other organizations, many teachers, true gurus, that's the highest teaching. Stay in God. And when we channel that love very gently, silently, when we come here also, it's not so much about, I've had two reasons why you should come to a satsang. If you're not feeling good, we absolutely need to go to a satsang. I have sometimes crawled my way, somehow reach the last seat. And if you sit there, when you go back home, you'll feel much better. And it has always worked. So if you're not feeling good, somehow come. If you are feeling blissful, like Swami said, if you have found God, please come. And silently, through prasad, through seva, through prayers and friendship, share Him with others. These are not easy times, coming to the subject of abiding in God. Where is God? Once somebody said to me after a satsang, Aditya, I believe in God. And I think He has created everything. But I think, tell me, do you agree with me? I think at some point it went out of His hands. I said, let's get some prasad and sit down and talk. He said, don't you think so? I said, no, I have a different point of view. He said, look at the world. It doesn't look like God's in charge right now. I said, I understand your point of view, but deep down, I said, it is not correct. I said, I'll give you some examples. And so I hope I convinced the person. But anyway, if we don't abide, and we'll come to the subject of God, but let's say, what if we don't do anything about things? In the Bhagavad Gita, it says we are in this world which is always changing, it is dual. Imagine we don't do any practice. What are we abiding in? Every week every day there is a headline nowadays, not even every week. Earlier you knew what to pray for. Now you have to add to your list every day. Now pray for this, now pray for that. Are we abiding in that? You're staying in this world, but are you going to abide in the world? In, the consciousness. Swami used to quote, somebody asked this world-famous pianist, how did you become so great? And he said, by never listening to my mother. And the person said, can you explain that, please? He said, my mother always wanted me to stay home in our little village. And he said, I understand her emotion, but thank God I left that village. I met other artists and I learned the art and I have become what I have because I left from there. So the point is that wherever we are, in our friends, family, they're wonderful people. They might be saints. And in that case, please stay with them and bring them here too. But news, world, society, friends, I'm not judging people, but what I'm saying is unless you are a channel of light, you're abiding in a semi-shaded, dark place, really, unclear. And people say, what's wrong with that? Everybody's like that. Well, that's why it has to be an individual effort. And then Swami says you start abiding in some qualities. You want to be more energetic, you want to be joyful, you want to be peaceful, perhaps more happy, you join this club or that and do these activities, change your friends around, perhaps go for a vacation, which is again fine, but how long does that last? And then Swami says, you realize that pleasure and happiness they come and go, and he said you start wanting to abide in the state of joy, peace, calmness, and those come through pranayam, they come through meditation, and yoga. More and more people are meditating, they are doing yoga, they are becoming aware of their diet and fitness, and those are wonderful things. But again, once in a while, you'll find somebody who is not satisfied. It comes from inside. You're like, I've done this before, this is good, but what's next? And Swami says, when you have that quest, in the beginning a teaching comes, then a teacher comes, and then he said the guru comes when the disciple is ready. So again, it's disciple-guru relationship. When we are ready, you want to abide in something which perhaps others are not talking about, then you say, I want that. And to deliver that, God sends us a guru. And once we have a guru, Master said, it's not over. Because, again, I remember a chat, somebody said, I want to talk and I want to change myself. I said, okay. So the moment we started talking, this person said to Master's picture many years ago, he said, Hamare Guruji bahut great hain. Our guru is very great. I said, yep. I said, we are so lucky, to be his disciples. Then I looked at him, he said, very great. He's very, very great. I said, yes. I said, but this meeting is about why are you not great? Yeah. I said, we came to discuss. No. So I said, let's come to that subject, because that tendency can come. My gurus are great. Or Ananda is producing saints. That's wonderful. Where are you? Because ultimately, of course, we know this, it's not, Master said, signing up with an organization or with a guru that does it. It is our daily quest. Then comes in not only the teachings and techniques the guru has given us, but as Swami said, attunement. And Master put that the highest. Swami Kriyanandaji said that, again, this has to be a personal hunger and desire for that. He said for many years on his birthday, he would say, and today, by the way, is Avinash's birthday, and a good thing to keep in mind, Master said that Swami said on his birthday, he would say, for many years he affirmed and prayed, Master, may my actions reflect your actions. That's quite a thing to be asked as an instrument. And Swami said many years later, that I found out was not enough. So he started praying, may my thoughts reflect your thoughts, Master. That's a great practice. And Swami said after some years he found out that was not enough. And then he finally started praying, may my feelings, may my chitta, may my heart, as we were singing today, reflect your feelings. And Swami says, that's how you merge in God. That's how you stay in Him. So, of course, through the techniques Master has given, like I said, we start. Or satsang, let's start before that. Let's come together. Let's reach out to one another. Let's pray. Then you practice the teachings, techniques. Then you invite the Master. And Swami says, ultimately, it starts with I and you, but then you find out that the Masters are everywhere. God is the creator. And he said, you start seeing Him everywhere. And then you realize in the final analysis that Guru also was not teaching. Books are there. But books have vibrations. Master said, I have put my vibrations in the autobiography. But that is also not enough. Swami says, ultimately the Masters guide from inside of each one of us. Because we've invited them in our spine, at the spiritual eye, in our heart, in our practice. So, and again, it's not philosophical. That's why I gave Swami's example. That bit by bit, when we do that, you start realizing, and I'll close with this story, that you could still be in a very chaotic world, and it's only going to get bad. Now is a good time to share this. I was thinking about it a few days ago, and every now and then it's good to share this. Master said, if people do not learn their lessons from the Second World War, and tell me if we have learned our lessons, Master said a third world war will come. And then he said, no corner of this world will be safe from bombs. And then he said, there will be weeping in every house. Now, very difficult to absorb that teaching or take it, and you say, well, what can we do about it? And that's exactly what we are discussing. Master said, those who love God, those who can serve as channels of light, those who pray, Master said, God will take care of you. And not just for us. This is, if Master came with this work, and Master was in tune with Divine Mother, here we are speaking about attunement, and you and I are trying to get in tune with God through the Masters, through the example of Swamiji, through the techniques and teachings they've given us. And it looks a little hard, but the mind alone cannot, I've given up, it cannot grapple. The mind can see, it's like fog, you can see that much, you can plan this much, but so many things happen in my own life, I can tell you, and I look back and I say, wait a minute. Like that silent saint told us when somebody was asking too many questions, she said to us, and there was a 65-year-old lady in that group, mind you. So Maunima said, you all are like little children in kindergarten. Keep doing what your guru has said, and He'll take care of everything when you will find God and all. But isn't that interesting that our mind can go as far, and perhaps it's going, you've stretched it more than the past you've done in the past, and that's good. We should keep doing that, Master said. But even then, the mind is not the spirit. So the mind can, I tell myself, I can only do this much, and then suddenly something happens, and God and gurus, you see their hand, their guidance, that somebody behind the scenes, as Master said, was doing so much more. So anyway, I'll close with that living in God, as we said in the beginning, what is God? That's a good question to ask. And Swami says, if you don't know, explore that. Tell him, I don't know you, I want to know you, or I'm afraid of you. God is said to be quite great. I was quite afraid of God when I finally realized He exists. I said, it's like, when you don't know, it's okay. Now, once you know, then you have to, it's like always show up in front of God and say, okay, what are the instructions for today? So, but why not? Swami said, you have to live anyway. Do you want bruised shins and knees and ankles? He said, why don't you ask God? Why don't you follow His instructions? He has a beautiful plan. He said, much, much better than you could ever think of. But He said, disciple-guru relationship, you have to start. You have to talk to Him. And Swami said, talk to Him all the time. Every morning he would get up and he would say, Master, he said, I would pray to God through the eyes of my guru, and he would say, may thy will be done, not mine. And it requires courage, but that also comes from them. So again, in all our practices, in all our sadhana, seva, satsang, let's keep that in mind. And just like we've gathered today and brought this beautiful light over here, we must now share that light and establish that light in our workplaces, in our homes, and let's keep that as a goal for the coming week. Jai Guru.